All right, are we live? Okay, good. So, hey everyone, and welcome to the Blak Mild podcast. I'm your host Reginald. Joining me is Manny or Otim.
Yep.
Man, which one do you want to
Good.
go by?
Whatever I usually say to people, whatever rolls off the tongue
All right,
easier. Yeah.
Manny's fine. So let's first start with some cleanup. My bad. Okay, I know we were supposed to start at noon, or 12 p.m. EST, 6 p.m. Central. This is my fault. The short story is I got hella hype. Okay, I'm about to start playing Smash. I decided, you know what? I've been watching these trailers for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I just had to buy it. All right. I need to make myself happy too. But unfortunately, my skib life, the timing kind of got away from me. All right. So, with that being said, also, I'm going to add a little public service announcement to the people in the OP community or anyone watching this. You can catch these hands in Smash. All right. Message me, leave a comment. Y'all are about to catch hands, all right? It's okay. It's okay. I love all of you, but sometimes you need to be disrespected by me, all right? So with that being said, now if for any of you guys who don't know or for the first time watching, so my goal with this channel is to really have some really enjoyable conversations, very meaningful conversations as well. Now, everyone that I've interviewed or had as a guest on the show so far have been from the OP community or the objective personality system, right? So if you don't know what that is, long story short, it's an attempt to make the Myers-Briggs typology indicator more objective, more scientific. The way they're doing that is by primarily they're doing double-blind testing where they take two people, put them in a separate room, and see if they can get the same type as each other for any given individual consistently over time. And once they get statistically significant results, they're going to hand this off to the scientific community and then kind of, expand this into the era of AI, genetics, those machine learning, those type of things. So it's in beta. It doesn't necessarily explain anything. However, I found the insights, and many people in the community have found the insights very, very like helpful. So we're going to use a lot of that terminology, unsurprisingly. So if you don't know what we're talking about, I've put some links in the description below. There's one for the beginner series from the founders, and there's one for a YouTube playlist that I've curated for you guys, just so you guys can get a feel for what's going on. But we're gonna kind of get pretty technical here. Um, Also, there is a live chat. My priority is to kind of stay zoned in with Manny, but feel free, put some chats. We both can see it. And if we think it's relevant to the conversation, we'll throw it up on the screen and we'll kind of talk about it. So other than
Good,
that,
good
and then,
blast, man.
yeah,
I
thank
got
you.
I respect that T. Because
Appreciate it.
I couldn't like you do that like consistently. Like that's pretty good. I
Thank you.
couldn't do that.
But again, just to emphasize, y'all can catch these hands in Smash, all right? It's okay. I forgive you for being bad at the game. All right. So with that being said, Manny, what's up, man?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I have no problem with you being late if it's Smash, because to be fair, I haven't played it in a while, but yeah, that's a good game.
Yeah, I'm about to
That's a
like
good
I got the controller with the Pokemon on it too. I got Mewtwo on it.
Yo, that's my guy. Like
Mewtwo on it.
Mewtwo's my guy.
Like the FI is on board. Y'all are about to catch a hit. I'm trying to tell you. All right. Anyway, let me calm down. So Manny, you're welcome, man.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to be here. Yeah, I really enjoyed watching all the other episodes, and yeah, I want to see how this goes. I've been looking forward to this because I think we haven't like spoken a lot, but like the few times we've spoken, it's always been like a super interesting conversation. So I'm like, this will be good. This will be pretty interesting.
I appreciate that. Likewise, I mean, there was that one. We're gonna get into that, but there was that one conversation we had, where it was what it was. So not in a bad way. Not in a bad
Yeah,
way.
yeah, it was
Let's
good.
actually start with. Let's start with the tradition is just starting with the first impressions. Apparently, I start fights with everybody I meet, so I want to confirm or deny that. So yeah, just start off like how if you remember how we met and what your first impression was and
Yeah. Yeah, so you popped up in the Facebook group. you got typed, and then you did like an interview with Kendrick. I was like, oh wow, it's interesting. Like your type is interesting to me because it's like the opposite of me.
Mhm.
And I was just like seeing you around, and my first impressions was like, this guy is like NETE, but you also seem like you really knew how to present yourself really well. From like your image straight down to like how you communicated, it was like you respected the OI a lot, and like in a way that it was like kind of confusing because you almost came off a little IJ-ish, but like
Yeah.
you're not an IJ, right? So I just like interpreted that like, oh, this is someone that's really like integrated with his demons. Like you can kind of you're quite a balanced person because like you seemed more so well put together than what I
Yeah.
expected, I guess. And yeah, that was my impression. Like, wow, this guy seems really cool. So yeah, and then I think I did a post about GTD or something, and then you commented on it, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll message you, and then you actually messaged me, and then our conversation also like I took so long to reply back to you,
I mean,
and
you
then
didn't respond.
yeah, or I didn't
Excuse my
respond.
language, but you didn't answer. Like,
Yeah.
what is going on?
This is yeah, and like that's pretty much blast last, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, so we had like I think I replied super late, I think, but the conversation was done at that point. But
Yeah.
and then we met again on Discord. We were vibing, just listening to music.
Yep.
And then yeah, just here and there, like in the Discord chat we spoke. And then here we are.
Really good. Really good. Yeah. So that definitely matches. So first, I've been getting that feedback, not even just from you, just like I was meeting with a friend who has just outside of all this, and she said the same thing. She was like, yeah, like you seemed very, she said, use the word put together initially. And I was like, I don't know where that's coming from.
Yeah.
Because I mean, definitely, I mean, I believe I'm OE. Like I'm not ever going to dispute that.
Yeah, I think you are too. Just from when I actually interact with you, it's OE. Like, but yeah.
Okay. So yeah, so that's an interesting first impression that people have. I don't know if that's like peacocking to the max or whatever, but really good. Yeah. So my first impression of you, I mean, the GTD, you reminded me of a friend of mine who I think is also an INFJ jumper. She's really cool, but she gets very obsessed with her systems, right? Like, so for example, both of you actually share this fascination with Notion, which I don't get. I actually messaged her yesterday. I was like, why are you both into this? You know, and she's like, oh, I love how it's hierarchical and how everything flows into each other. And I was like,
yep, that's it. Yeah. And it's like, it has, there's so many different things you can do. Like previously before Notion, I would have like different apps for different things. And then I just realized I could do so many different things in Notion. It just makes my life easier. Just having one system that rules them all. You know, so it really feeds, like Notion is like kind of built for that. So
right.
Yeah.
Really good. So yeah, so that was actually my first impression, like, or maybe not my first impression so much as a bias, because I knew your type.
Yeah, right.
So I was like, okay, maybe they're similar. And then yeah, I did actually start seeing the similarities. Now where the similarities fell apart was when you ghosted me on that one message, and I was like, yo, like fuck this dude then.
Yeah,
like,
is your friend Blast Last?
No, I don't think she is. I think she possibly play last. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, it really like I admit I'm pretty bad. Like people watching probably know. Like if you know me. But yeah, it depends on what, I don't know, whatever was going. Sometimes it's like if I'm in a particular stressful period in life, this is the problem, right? I'll open up interactions, but then it's like the follow through is where I'm lacking. I'm trying to not do that. But
well, I mean, not only that, but I mean, in that particular exchange, I think what happened was the moment the conversation no longer was fully in your like box, you hopped out.
That makes sense. That's true. That I can. Yeah, that's me. But yeah, I think this is the cool thing I think about. I actually have spoken to my friend about this and my girlfriend about this. I tend to be very kind of like, I want to know why we're talking, if you know what I mean. Like, I'm not, it's hard for me to just hang out sometimes, like just to hang out and then see what happens. I don't know if that's demon play as well as demon blast. It's like,
Right.
I kind of want to know, like, okay, we're talking for this reason. And I think it's also a little bit of the tea as well, where it's like, I want to know, I don't know, like what's useful for me, right? So
Right.
something I've been aware of, I'm trying to like curb that, and it is hard, but you know,
Yeah.
it's weird. It is weird. And sometimes I feel a little bit not sociopathic, but you know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, why can't I just chill and just see where this goes, kind of thing. But I think through awareness, I'm trying to just be like, okay, even let me just intentionally just let this flow and see where it goes. And it depends how busy I am. Sometimes it's like I have to prioritize how much I can just hang out with what do I need to do in my life. I'm like, okay, let me just reduce this conversation to like what it is, and then let me make sure I have time for other things. I don't know. So that's how that's so yeah, I think you read that pretty well.
Really good. Really good. So I think what we're gonna do on this one's gonna be a deep dive into personality. I think that seems to be the one topic that we're just gonna like go as far down as we can.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of facets to it. So there's the objective personality from like kind of the more standard stuff like saviors, demons. We'll do a compare and contrast between us. And then also from there, you know, you have your own ideas, right? Your own things that you're kind of forming, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to the degree of your comfort. I know there's for sure one that we're going to discuss. So let's go ahead and get started with that. And what I would recommend, chat, just since this is going to be such a deep dive, you might as well start asking your OP questions, because it's like this is all we're going to talk about today. Like, there's not, unless you want to catch hands and smash, this is the only thing we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
All right. So why don't you start with just describing how you understand your saviors and demons, like and your experience with those?
Sure. I guess I can start with I'm lead sleep, NITI, and I guess I'll talk a little bit about what the NT sleep is like, because everyone kind of knows sleep in general. It's kind of like processing, understanding. I mean, even as I try to explain sleep, it will be filtered through my functions, but understanding kind of what's going on in your life and like processing what's happened, basically. And another aspect of sleep outside of the processing, I think people don't really talk about, is also like I'll have this extreme self-accountability with what happens. So, and everyone has accountability, but I notice it as like it's almost unnecessary accountability. So like I'll give like an example, perfect example actually, when we spoke in a call before, and this was just before this, and like I'll explain what happened. So I was sharing some ideas. One of my ideas was about like using your shadow functions, and then you perfectly gave some holes. You pointed out some missing holes, and which was good. I was like, oh yeah, okay, that's a fair point. And then there was like more nuance to my idea. Like it doesn't work the way I thought it was. After that call, I was so frustrated with myself, because I was like, it's like the feeling of like, so you were kind of really objective. So the frustration is I should have been objective in my head. So it's like this, like it's kind of like, yeah. So it's a frustration of not being, and I've actually heard Felix talk about this, your typing partner.
Okay.
You did an interview with him, and he mentioned this, and I was like, yeah, that's exactly how I feel. So he was talking about what happens when you use TE to like point in, throw holes in his idea, and he said he's trying to emulate your objectivity internally. So it's like he, through that beatdown, he kind of gets inspired to be more objective. So I had that frustration. So And then that's a pattern of like, I'll always like, whenever something happens, it's like, what could I have done to make, like, even if it's like outside of my control, it's like, okay, where did I fuck up? Like, what could I have done? And so there's that extreme critic that's always there. And I think maybe you might relate. I don't know if this is true or not, but I think I'm always kind of detached from it. So like, if you notice at the start, I said, I can tell it's unnecessary. So it's like, it's happening, but like, I can see it happening. So I can see it like as a process. It's like, it's just a machine in me that's doing the criticism. It's not me as such. And I wonder if, and that makes me okay with it, because it's not, I'm like, this is just part of the process. I wonder if when like the sleep is a demon, that kind of dark kind of cycling is you guys kind of feel it more when it's a demon sleep, because I don't feel it as much as a problem. So that's what I've always wondered.
Don't feel what? I'm sorry. What if
like you don't feel as, so in my case, I would say I feel slightly more detached from the criticism going on. Like it's happening, but I'm kind of detached from it. So I wonder if demon sleeps feel kind of, when it is happening, it's actually happening to them. So it's like, I don't know. This is what I've been wondering. I don't know if that's true.
I don't.
Not really.
I'm not sure about that. I think maybe that detachment just might be thinking.
Yeah.
So there's that. However, what I will say is when I do at least when I think I'm doing sleep processing, who fucking knows? But when I think I'm doing sleep processing and I'm finally like reliving certain things, there's like all that residual pain or frustration or all that, it does feel very involved. I'm like,
yeah, right.
So like I have to, so it takes me a while to get to that detached place legitimately.
Yeah.
But for me, at least with my type of play, like since it's NT, it feels detached in the moment.
Yeah, right. Okay. Interesting. Because my play is, I've said this to people, where my play, I feel so involved with I'm like one with what's happening. Like I lose myself in what's happening. So that's very interesting that it makes sense though, because NT is kind of detached. That's pretty interesting. Okay. And with my NT sleep as well, the way it works is, this will sound a little bit technical, but I'm looking for, usually it'll be like, okay, I was wrong in my thinking. Like, in the example of our call yesterday, I was wrong in my thinking, right? And usually it's like, I'm trying to understand, how did I get wrong? I'm trying to understand because in a line of thinking, there's a guardrail that's making you follow a certain line of thinking. That's usually your framework. It's like the framework you use to get to a certain point. And I'm trying to criticize that. I'm like, what was the framework I used to get to this wrong conclusion? Like, why did I get there? And I'll kind of attack that framework. And maybe an example, I thought it'd be easier to give an example, because this is a little bit like abstract. It's like, let's say I've never encountered a dog before. I experienced a dog in real life. I have a terrible experience with this dog. And I'm just like, shit, like dogs are vicious. Like, always avoid dogs. And I go about my life trying to avoid dogs. I end up in a situation where I'm forced to be in a room with a dog. My friend's dog comes downstairs and the dog's lovely. I'm like, oh shit, like I was wrong. This dog's nice. I shouldn't have come to whatever conclusion. Right. And then there's a lot of like, okay, what was the framework that got me to this wrong conclusion? So it could be like, okay, I should, maybe I don't have, how do I say this? I'm not fit to verify if I have enough experience to jump to a conclusion. So that's like a new framework. So then in the future, I'll always have some skepticism with my experiences. Like, okay, maybe don't jump to, you know what I mean? Like, that's just an example of like creating a new framework.
Yeah.
So I just kind of do that a lot. And that's the NT flavor of it. I'm just looking at the framework.
Yeah, that's interesting. That actually
like a meta-analysis, I guess.
Yeah, right? It aligns with my suspicions, right? Yeah, like so, because I think NI is more concerned with axioms, right? So so rather than
arguing, that's exactly it. Yeah,
rather than arguing specifics, you go at why, like from an axiomatic level, why did I fuck up? And then
yeah.
once you switch axioms, you get way more right. So it's very efficient. Yeah. So it's sleep.
Yeah.
Super.
That was initially what I was gonna say, but I thought, oh, let me describe this in a more fleshed out way. But like, that's exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah. Really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So from a human needs level, right? So you have OI and DI.
Mm-hmm.
How are you experiencing those as saviors, and then how are you experiencing the opposite as demons?
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. Like, because of my type's a little weird as well, because I have double activated SE. So
Oh.
I have OE isms. I still respect the OI. I can still suck at the sensory and the SE, but there's a part of me that leans into chaotic tendencies. But the one case, when I'm doing stuff by myself, I'm happy for things to be chaotic. But as soon as it's the tribe that's bringing me the chaos, I get very frustrated.
Okay.
And it's so weird. It's really weird. Like, I don't like, Dave kind of talks about things breaking down. Like, I don't mind if my computer stops working. Like, shit goes wrong all the time. And if it's just me and it's like it's reality, stuff happens, I'm like, okay, let's do it. Let's fix this. Like, this is just part of the process. But as soon as it's like a person did this, I'm like, fuck, like I didn't need to go through this. Right?
Okay.
So that's the OI and the DI. Respecting that, like what's within my box and then what is the tribe chaos doing to me, kind of thing. I don't know. That makes sense.
That's really good. I guess where I'm hesitating to understand is, I believe you. I mean, it's your fucking life. But what I'm curious about is, based on that, if I didn't know what your type was, I would have heard that and been like, oh, that's decider talk.
Yeah.
So how? I mean, do you?
How? Yeah. My understanding is, it's like I could if let's say I was sleep last play, right, and that's like double activated. Or my understanding is I could have just hated chaos from all angles, from my inner experience and then the tribe, and perhaps because I'm double activated, double masculine consume, maybe my inner chaos isn't so much of a problem, and then it's like, but I still have that frustration with the tribe chaos. Like, that's my understanding.
Right.
Yeah, and it's like I'm not actually annoyed at the tribe member. It's like it coming from the tribe member makes it unnecessary. It's like,
right.
Yeah. It just makes it like, oh, this was unnecessary. Like, that's the sentiment.
So my bad. I was late, so I'm sorry if you're pissed.
Oh no. Like, that was chill. Like, because I think I told you I was, I was in the bathroom anyway, so. So it was all good. Yeah, and if it's Smash, like, that's very understandable, man. But yeah, and okay, so maybe I spoke about my demons, but I guess let me talk about how OI DI works. I guess.
Okay.
I think Uzair explained this really nicely, but like, I'm optimizing things for me, like always kind of just tweaking. I like every time, like if I'm doing anything, there's always like a second voice in my head that's constantly kind of critiquing what's happening, analyzing it, like a meta-analysis where it's like, is the approach, the strategy you're taking to do this, is this right? And like, it's always this kind of need to like stop and like change my entire frame, like how I'm doing this. Like, there's that need, like, constantly. Like, it's a pain writing essays, and I guess this is more of the missing blast, where it's like I should just kind of get shit out, but I'm critiquing it before I, like, the whole time. It's like a lot of stopping, starting. So that's like the sleep, really. And then it'll like lean into like, is this the right approach? Oh, I'm not sure. Let me consume information to find out what like, yeah. And I'll just like stop what I'm doing, and I'll like look at what other people do, or like what are other approaches and shit like that. So it leans into my consume, and then it just keeps cycling through that. And it's like, okay, let me try again. And then it's another critique, and then it's like, that's the gist of it. Very annoying.
So I can see how you get lost in that, right?
Yeah. It's very annoying, because then it's like you're critiquing, but you're not producing it. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, you need to get the shit out and then look at it. So I have to kind of force myself just to like push it out if I need to.
Okay.
But yeah, it's I think yeah. I think blast should kind of come before the whole sleep consume process. Ideally. That's my take on it. Or maybe I'm just I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, really good. Where I'm curious, just from your experience, so you have, so it would be NTST, right?
Yeah.
So then it would be SF, NF. What is your relationship with, and I don't think I've ever asked this before, but I am curious in your case, what is your relationship with the SF and the NF?
Oh yeah, this is good. I think I've argued with some people about this before, but I I distinguish the animals from the letters. So I'm
Okay.
NT,
Yep.
so I would call myself SF last, but people would say I'm NF last because my blast is NF. And
Okay.
for me, my experiences, the letters are like, so my letters NT. The letters are, it's kind of like what information your brain can process from that letter. And then the animals is like your behavior, like what can you do, like what are you attracted to do. So because of the play activation, I think I probably engage with SF things maybe more, but throughout my life I've always used like consuming NF is like it makes so much sense to me. Like whenever I'm understanding anything conceptual, whether it's like logical or to do with what's important and values, like that's always made more sense to me than consuming SF. So in terms of like taking in the information, I feel SF last. Like I don't I, I
Right.
don't always understand like yeah, I never understand, like I've always said this and I've kind of spoken to my type twins about this and they relate too, but it's really hard, like super hard for me to do something just for the sake of doing it. Like I need to understand like why I'm doing it, why is it important also for the bigger picture. Like I need that hierarchy of and like because of that I've kind of developed different models in my head about reality and like what's important and things like that. So the NF has always helped me in that regard, but the SF has always been like, I don't know, it's not information I can take in very easily. That's my relationship with it. But when it comes to my animals and like what I do, I generally I don't like talking about stuff. I don't like saying, okay, this thing will be good. I just want to show you. I just want to show you like the results. That's my SF play. Like I just want to do it, and then you see. Like I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to be like, this is what's gonna happen. Blah blah blah. Yeah. So that's where the blast comes in. Like I just want to show people the value at the end of the day, like because of the play. That's my general behavioral approach. So that's
Sure.
if that makes sense. There's like a weird nuance there, but
Sure.
I don't know if that's true, but that's just
No, I get that. I mean, for me, like it's a straight flush, right? Like not only is my
yeah.
SF a demon, it's also my last animal. So I'm super fucked.
Yeah,
So
it's like, but in a weird way, you might be. It's like if you, it's super hard to fix it, but then all your eggs are in that basket. So if you do, you're good. It's a yeah, it's it's extreme in both ways. So
right.
yeah.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on like the blast last? Because you're making a nuance. Like do you feel like? So sorry. Two questions. One,
Yeah.
can you describe a little bit more about blast last, and then two, do you consider the blast last more of a problem than the SF or the reverse?
That's a good question. All right, so first let me describe blast last. Just my experience of it and what it's like. Yeah, so let me think about this. I guess it's kind of happening right now. Like I'm trying to not say anything I've already said because I'm like no one wants to hear that. Let me find something new. But that's still important because you have to tie it in so everyone can, right? So it's happening right now. I'm like, let me say something different, right? And so okay, so blast last. I guess Yeah, right. So my blast last is a bit more different than say a lead plays blast last, I think, because like I was saying earlier, the sleep consume over processing is what is stopping me from blasting. So that's like unique to me because of the sleep consume.
Right.
And then, man, I guess I can just talk a bit about like I'm always self-conscious of like no one wants to like what I don't know if anyone's gonna care about what I'm saying. And it's not that and it's like I think blasters also it's not that blasters think everyone cares about what they're gonna say. I just think that they can handle that rejection well. It's like, hey, they didn't care, but I'm okay. But for me, it's like, I don't want to risk that
Right.
intrusiveness or awkwardness or whatever. But yeah, so I don't think it's yeah. So it's more so my insecurity of like, oh shit, like if it is something they don't care about, can I handle that? You know? So there's that insecurity.
Yeah.
And then there's like also I never feel like I know what I'm talking about. Like why should this person listen to me? And in some ways it can be good because I really respect the consumer and being informed. Like whenever I tell people stuff, I'll also add in like, but don't like take what I'm saying as a reference point. Like just use it as a reference point and then you figure it out for yourself. Like think about what I'm saying. Don't just take what I say at face value. So I think that's just generally good advice. But yeah, behind it is also the insecurity of like the blast last and fuck, I forgot. And this is another thing. I think this is also like because it's double feminine blast.
Okay.
This happens with my friend a lot too. Like I'll forget I'll have something to say, but I'll forget what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
It's really weird. Like I'll have an idea, and then I'll think of something else, and then something else, and then the first thing will disappear, and I'm like, "Fuck, okay, I don't know what to say now."
Right.
But yeah, did that make sense?
Yeah, no, I followed it. I think also there's some people are clowning you in the chat. Not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
I don't realize when I do it too, because like I'll I'll in my head it like because I'm listening to my head, so I don't know. I'm not aware of what you're listening. It's like I'm blind to what the tribe is listening to, right? So I'm hearing my mental explanation, and I can see myself be like, okay, this isn't relevant, so I'll stop talking, or like this isn't very good anymore.
Right.
To you guys,
talking. Yeah.
to you guys, you're like, why you just stopped? Like,
yeah,
when we're not aware of what's going on. It's like, but it's so weird, man. It's like I'm sure you've heard of like the sleep talk, where Shave said like they talk about how Blastlastas can just talk, but it's more they're in a monologue. So
yeah.
A lot of times I'll think it was just about to happen. A lot of times I'll think I'm doing something or I'm gonna say something and I just won't say it. Like it's as crazy as that. Like literally like my girlfriend might be like, "Oh, you never told me you were gonna do this and this." And I was like, "Oh, I thought I told you. I guess I just told you in my head." You know, something like that. So yeah. And if sometimes it just feels like there's a lot of tangents in my head. And it's yeah.
Well, I mean, so then I guess my question is if that's your experience, then what is your sleep processing doing about that? Because I thought my understanding of sleep was it's organizing that. But
sleep processing is, oh man. If I've spoke to Benjamin about this, but my sleep feels very chaotic. It's like play blast energy in my head.
Oh, okay.
So there's like I was saying, there's a lot of tangents, but then it's like some things loop around, some things it's like some things shift. It's hard to explain because it feels like things are being thrown out the wall on my like from my skull. Like it's like stuff's ricocheting. Some things come together, some things don't. So it does feel chaotic. It's hard to really say. Like sleep is trying to pull it down, but it feels like it. Yeah, and like John, I don't know if John was in the chat, but like we both do GTD, and he always gets he kind of laughs at me because I change my system so much, like so frequently. And he's like, wow, you've changed it again. And I'm like, yeah. And I think that's like the feminine and I. It's like, yeah, like something bothered me about what I was doing. So I just had to just change it. And it's like just changing it just constantly. So it's the sleep is more of it's like a loose tether. It's like stuff's flying around, but we're going towards a general direction. And eventually it'll build up, but it's a very chaotic kind of thing.
Interesting. Yeah. Really good. Thank you. So thanks for clarifying that. Ian, shout out to Ian. He kind of agrees, saying it's a reluctance, you know.
Yeah. What's up, Ian?
What's up, man? So really good, man. So I have a few more questions from the comparison, or not the comparison, like the deep dive into your type side, and then we'll kind of go into the comparison.
Yeah.
One thing I've noticed by when I'm interviewing everyone that my fucking words. One thing that I've noticed after interviewing a bunch of people is where they're the most punchy is their double masculine function, actually, or animal.
Yeah.
You relate to that? Is that like, and when I say punchy, I mean like they're starting fights.
You know? Right. Yeah, I'm not. I don't know if it's like it differs when it's a savior or a demon, but I'm not like I won't fight someone. Like it doesn't. I hate arguing. Like I don't argue. I don't know. It just doesn't really happen so much. I can feel the double masculine energy in like for me, it's more if I'm stuck on a problem, it's like I have this undeniable feeling of like the answer is out there. There's like whatever problem I have, there's always something I don't know out there that I can learn or pick up or gather. Like it's like an unwavering belief of like whatever, like even like problems that I don't. Yeah, so there's that kind of, I feel that kind of stable grounding. Like I know I'll always be looking for an answer, and I guess that's also like missing info and stuff. Right. But when it comes to other people, let me think. Yeah, I don't really get into fights really about the ST. Like I can be like frustrated, but I can keep it to myself. It's like, oh, like they don't really know the facts that well, or like I don't know. I don't really get into it. It doesn't really happen. Yeah. What would you? Yeah, I'm just curious. Like, does this happen usually even like when it's a savior? Like, just from what people have said, or
you're asking me to access the SI, so give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay, so with the people where I see it get like aggressive. Okay, so we have demon, savior, demon, demon. It predominantly demon.
Damn, that was very like I was looking just for like a. But you really went on the SI and had to get that shit.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
They were all predominantly demon. I think there's maybe 1 or 2 where, with that. But
and the thing is, I'm kind of like my TI and SE, like in my Garand stack, like my INFJ stack, my TI and SE are at the bottom 2. So I'm also always insecure about, like, weirdly enough, like I never feel like I do it that well. So I'm not really gonna fight someone on something I actually don't feel that confident in. Like the way my type is laid out, and I've spoken to my type twin, he feels the same. It's like nothing's really solid. Like nothing's really solid. It doesn't feel like
right.
Yeah.
One thing I will actually add, as you were saying that, I think what I've realized is the majority of the ones that were fighty with the double masculine, I think they were they were not blast last. I mean, I think the only one that I've interviewed that's blast last is Felix, I think.
Yeah.
I feel like he would just I love Felix, but I feel like Felix would just be the guy who'd be like, all right, then go fucking drown then. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I'd be like that too. Like, at the end of the day, like if someone's doing something stupid, I respect, like, I don't know. Yeah. So I really value the whole thing, like them paying the consequence of their faulty thinking. Like I want that for myself. Like if I'm fucking up and then something dumb happens, and it's like, okay, like I'm an idiot, like I need to go through that process. It's like I respect that learning process.
Right.
So
yeah.
hey, this is gonna be your journey, like that's you, bro. Like
so interesting. Do you relate to the "don't control me, bro"? Do you relate to that?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. It's let me think. Yeah, no, actually you're right. Actually, that's when I kind of have to, like, I don't know if you've seen that gif of, like, is it Arnold or something? Like someone shaking their fist, like a cartoon character. And it's like,
yeah, okay.
Like that's me when like someone just really, really petty dumb stuff. Like I know it's dumb. That's the thing. So like if I'm gonna do something, I think I saw if someone tells me something I was already gonna do, that annoys me. Like it's so dumb, right? It's just something like, and I can see it too. I can see it. So I never feed into it. I've never blown up over the "don't control me" thing because I can see the ridiculousness of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I can see it's there. It's super petty. It's like, let me think. Nothing's happened recently. Yeah, people and people telling me to do stuff that they can do themselves annoys me. I think I used to have frustrations with my dad, like just like little ones where it's like, I think he's TE,
Okay.
either INTJ or ISTJ, but I think he's TE, and he'll just be like, oh yeah, like could you do this? And in my head, like if I needed this, I would do it myself. So why are you telling me to do it? Like you can do it.
Right.
Like in my head, I'm like, you can do it yourself. Like,
right.
Just stuff like that. Like if you can do something, do it. Like don't, you know what I mean?
I can answer that real quick, but
yeah, go for it.
Like we'll do that, and then we'll circle back when we go to the comparison. It's like for me, like my TE is immediately like, well, of course it's faster. Of course I'm gonna tell you to do it. It's like I don't have time to do that shit.
Yeah, yeah. But this is the thing. Then this is it though, and this is the really selfish part.
Okay.
Now you're inconveniencing me. Like I was doing my shit. I had a plan, and then you just came and you were like, do this, and like I'm doing this unnecessarily. Like I'm not actually helping you significantly. If it's something significant, I'm like, yeah. But if it feels like you could do it,
yeah.
So this is more my own attachment to myself. It's like a selfishness. So I can see that. I can see that.
Interesting. Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
Does that annoy you? Like, does that set your TE off? Like low key, like
no, it depends. It depends, right? Like, I mean, because I get irritated when people ask me to do shit. Like,
yeah,
if I don't like them, I mean, that's where my FI comes in. I'm like, yo, I don't even fucking like you. Like, don't talk to me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Don't ask me to do anything for you. Like, you like go drown over there, right? But I will say, like, I mean, when I'm the blaster, I usually am doing it because things need to happen.
Right. Yeah.
And I do, bro, you're about to get me on a fucking rant. I have someone at work. I promise to God, he's like TISI, actually. I think that's his lead functions.
Mm-hmm.
And he is the most petty dude ever. He's like, oh, well, like, and he'll like argue back and like, I'm like, why are you like, I'm not even doing, so this is where it pisses me off.
Mm-hmm.
It pisses me off if I'm doing it for another person and you're blocking me. So if I'm doing it for a DE reason and you're blocking me on that, then I'm gonna fight you. Because I'm like, dude, like if it were just me, I would do it for myself. But it's like we have customers over here.
Right. Yeah. No, I get that. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's cool. Yeah. So I get that. That makes sense. It's like, yeah, because now that's conflicting directly with the DE at that point. Yeah, that makes sense. And I would say, good. Like I would lean to being like, yeah, your side makes more sense.
Yeah. And okay, really good. So the last question I had just from you, personality wise, is you as an introvert, right? Like it sounds like you relate to that, but I mean, I feel like you're still relatively active. I mean, obviously not as active as maybe like a Play Blast or whatever, but like you seem pretty involved, like in the community and things like that. So I'm just curious how.
It's an illusion, man. Like, I'm hella introverted. Like people have told me my play is good and stuff like that, but the difference is like I'm prepared. I prepare for like, I'll prepare to do stuff. So it's different if you catch me day to day. Like,
Mm.
I don't know. Let me think about this. So I don't know. This might also be related to being energy down, but I've always felt like I've always had a struggle with energy, like just actual energy. Like I remember there was a point like a few years ago, like I was going to the doctors just to like query like what's going on.
Yeah.
I was vitamin D deficient, so that that was an actual biological thing.
Yeah.
But generally, I'd be like I would be a low energy person, and it would frustrate me because like I'd want more energy. I learned about I don't know if you've heard of like chronotypes, and it's I'll just
Sleep
class
type, right?
yeah, sleep types, right? So it's a profile of your circadian rhythm. It's based on your genetics. You get it from your parents, and it determines if you're a morning person or a night person. And you can live your life how you want. You can stay up late, and even if you're a morning person, but you're working against how you perform optimally. So for a while, I would always kind of just think, oh, I stay up late, like all the other students are staying up, like I'll work till late. But I was always like short for energy. I never understood why. And I did the whole chronotypes thing, and I found out that I'm a super early person. And I also found this out by accident before the chronotypes thing. I had like a factory job, and they made me wake up at like 5 a.m. And I thought, oh, this is gonna be shit. And I did the 5 a.m. shifts, and then they moved me to like later on, like 8 or 9 a.m. shifts, and these would be long shifts. And I noticed like the 9 a.m. there'd be like 12-hour shifts too. So the 9 a.m. shifts were like so painful relative to the 5 a.m. ones. Like I was like from 5 a.m. it was like the hours went by like this. Like it was like nothing. Like, oh, I'm good. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and when I did the chronotypes test, I was like, oh, I'm early morning person. Like that, this makes sense. So, waking up at 5:30, 5 a.m., it's like my energy is all in the early part of the day. Then it's just shot. And it's like, doesn't, even if I wake up at noon, I can still feel it. Like I can still feel the drop. And like, it frustrates my girlfriend because when we watch movies at night, it's like there's a 90% chance I'm falling asleep. Like I'm not finishing that movie. Like,
Right.
yeah. And that's, yeah. And so I'm just an early morning person. My energy just kind of goes later on in the day. If I have to do stuff, I have to like drag myself to do it.
Mm.
So yeah, so introversion more of like actual energy.
Actual energy. Right.
100%. Yeah.
Really good. I see. This is where the anecdotes fucking fall apart because I would be like, oh, I totally that resonates with me. All this bullshit. It does, but
Yeah.
like obviously, this actually would be a good transition to the contrast because we might as well start with that.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like starting with the energy stuff. I subjectively, I feel like I'm very low energy actually.
Yeah.
Now, my result, like until I look at my results, that's actually
Mhm.
where I get fucked up because I'm like, Reggie, you did like 4 videos in a week and you did all this work stuff, and so I'm like, so I guess I'm unconscious of my energy, but if you were to ask me at any given point, I'm like, I feel super drained.
Yeah.
I'm taking naps all the time, like it.
I actually, right, yeah, and I actually don't. This kind of segues into something I was going to talk about later, but I think I would believe you if you said you're low energy. Like I think there's a difference also between, I don't know if you've heard of schemas. So like a self schema is like the narrative you tell yourself in your head. It's like the models you
Yep.
use to drive you in the world.
Okay.
So it's very likely that you actually might be low energy, but then you have like maybe because of your animals, you have a particular schema that's just dragging you through the shit. Like you're just like, but I gotta get this done. I gotta get this done.
Right.
It's very likely like I'm just like my schema isn't pulling me through. So I think that, and I was watching a video before, really awesome video. I think it was like why the field of psychology is in trouble or something like that. And I'm sure everyone knows like there's the idea of limited willpower. There was a guy,
Right.
researcher called Baumeister. He
Right.
kind of investigated it like
Yeah.
1998. He did like, maybe you've heard of this experiment. Like he'd get kids to one group of kids would have to resist what was it? I can't remember the ST, but they would get them to kind of have to resist taking a cookie or something like that, and the other group of kids were fine. Like they didn't have to resist anything. They do some kind of cognition task, and the kids that had to resist performed worse. Yeah. So there's been so much research after that has compiled on top of that. We even have a neurological evidence of like our willpower is basically it's basically blood glucose, right? So it's like the glucose gives us energy to do the thing. So willpower is kind of like the energy. And what we found out later with new analysis methods was that, you know, some of these studies were shady. Like a lot of them were shady, and because of that, there was like an overhaul. So they did like a large amount of this same like willpower study, and they did it like across different labs across the world, and then they put the results together. What they found out was, you know, willpower is a thing, but our understanding that these little tasks or things we do depletes it is what's like not seeming to be true. So it's not something that like is like going that quickly. And what they found was if someone believes willpower is limited, they were following the trend of they performed worse. If they thought that the willpower was unlimited, it didn't apply. Like they could do the shit before the task and they could still perform well. So like there's a clear. So then I was like, shit, like your schema aside from is a very big driving force.
Wait, stop. This is a problem, right? Like you see how this is a problem, right? Or am I?
Yeah.
No, you don't. Where my mind is going is OP itself. The schema of OP itself with saviors and demons, right? How demons are so draining for you and like all of that.
Yeah.
That might be fucking us up, bro.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think that's what I was going into. So I was saying like, yeah, your schema might be your play type, like your super extroverted type might just be that schema you use to drive you. That's what I was saying.
No, this is wait.
Unless
No, you're good.
Your process.
My question is okay, so all right, I'm gonna have to start some fucking shit. I guess I have to be the drama guy in the fucking OP community. It's happening, all right? I'm that guy. Okay. Now, what I'm contrasting with, my mind is immediately going to Raja, right? So for those who don't know Raja is like one of the OG YouTube content creators for OP, but he's been very vocal about how, Dave and Shan are like really wrong for assuming demons are hard and demons aren't that bad, and why does everything have to be suffering, and why can't you just enjoy your life? Like that's kind of his narrative.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty like in my mind, I was like, man, that's some bullshit. So I didn't listen to it. But now I'm like, okay, is this a schema question?
Yeah, like the narrative. Yeah. And like this will probably tie into like what I have to say later about like spirituality and stuff like that. But yeah, for sure. I think OP is looking at something, but like I don't know how concrete. Like some of the premises might be off. I don't know. Like it might be. So I don't know.
I was not expecting that.
Sorry, man. But it's good. I think, I haven't really spoken about this publicly, so this is cool, actually.
I think you're right. I've been suspicious about this, and maybe that's why I'm frustrated. Not at you. This kind of goes back all the way to episode 1 for me, where I was talking to Ikram, and I was like debating whether, you know, life is about this hero's journey or is life actually about you being happy? What a fucking concept. Like, which one is it?
Right? Yeah.
You know, so, all right.
Yeah.
Fuck. All right. All right. Fun. So fun fucking shit. You're just dropping some fucking bars on me. Sorry, and I don't like sleep processing.
Yeah.
I gotta do that. Okay. God damn it.
You can process it while you're playing Smash.
No, I'm not doing that. I'm gonna use Smash to escape my problems. Okay. So look. So this is a perfect segue, right? So let's start with comparing and contrasting, because I think you did a great job from an OP standpoint, kind of just fleshing out, and also just quite frankly, you have a lot of interviews out there, so It's not like this is the first time people have heard this.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like if you want more in depth with Otim cognitively, you have a Benjamin one, right?
Yeah, two.
Yeah, you have a Kendrick one.
Yeah.
Like you guys,
rounds. Yeah.
it's out there. So it's like if you're mad that I didn't ask the technical questions you want, either you can ask it or you can go over there and
Yeah.
All right, bet. Now, with that being said, let's go to the compare and contrast because I think our types are very interesting to contrast. I think especially since we're on opposite quadras, nearly opposite animals.
Yeah, almost. Yeah.
Like it's definitely opposite in terms of energy versus info, like those type of things. So
yeah.
I mean, we talked about the energy and the schemas, which is gonna fuck me up. Let's start with the TE because I think that's one of the ones that you're still processing.
Yeah, man. I respect.
Sorry. Yeah, you got shook by TE.
Yeah, man. TE is scary. TE to me is like TEs are the. It feels like that's like the missing info. Like I'll always like with the way my TI works, and I think I mentioned this to you earlier. It's like like when I have like an idea, I need to kind of see the logic through. I need to like follow it all the way down the line, like think my way through to the end of whatever I'm thinking, and then I can evaluate it, right? And what I've noticed about TE, like you guys don't need to do like I can waste a lot of time doing that. Like TE is kind of seeing the spectrum and seeing like, okay, like that's already shaky, and it's like it stops it there, right? And when I'm interacting with the TEs, and like this is why like my conversation with you was nice, because it's like I want that in my head. I want that objectivity in my head, because it's like my TI feels more like it's just a raw machine. It's like I'm just thinking. It's not.
Wow.
I don't know if I don't know if I'm going the right direction. I think this is the right direction, but the main thing is it's just a machine. Like it doesn't stop. Like there's times when I'm trying to like. This sounds weird. It won't make sense.
Oh,
but I'm literally asleep. Like I'm like falling asleep.
Yeah.
And there's a voice in my head that's thinking. And it's not keeping me up. It's like it's just thinking. It's just like when I first learned about MBTI and OP, like that happened throughout the night, and I woke up and I understood it better. It's like so weird. And TE is like the observer for me, in the sense you guys can see what direction I should go. Like, okay, don't do that. Do this.
Okay, so you just connected something that I was suspicious about. So I have to share this. So
go for it.
This is actually going to help with the spirituality conversation later on. So context, I'm like Nietzsche aficionado, right? Like I'm in my friend group, I'm the Nietzsche guy. Like I used to obsess about his stuff.
Yeah.
So one of the things he talks about in Beyond Good and Evil is he describes this. I'm suspicious he has FITE somewhere.
Yeah, I think he does.
So one of the critiques he has, and I think in book 1 of Beyond Good and Evil, is he describes what he calls like a scholar type, right? Where he describes there's a certain type of mind where there's like they almost create like machinery of thought that's removed from them while they go live their life.
Yeah, and but he didn't like that.
He doesn't.
Yeah. He was like, he's like, you should embody, you should be one with that thing, and I do agree with that. But I can
No, so really good. All I was saying is, I mean, this is gonna tie directly into the conversation later, but like, I do feel like TI does feel like a clockwork, or like it's building a machine, and it just like, or I used to call it algorithms. Actually, it will build a set of algorithms, and then whatever input, it just spits out an output. But it's almost like the person is just watching that machine and monitoring that machine.
Yeah,
that has nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
And like me as an FI, I'm like, this is your life. Like the machine is you. I don't understand. Like I'm confused.
Yeah.
So
no, and I think, and that made me think of like also the difference between, because we spoke before a little bit about like, you told me what masculine FI is like. When FI is doing its FI thing and it's masculine, it's like okay, like I'm gonna call, like if it's the FI versus something else, like the other thing has to die. It's like,
Yep.
it's like this. And I was thinking about what is my TI, because when it's masculine, it does have some fuck you energy, but it's not like I'm gonna go at the thing. It feels, and I realize this, and like the Terminator analogy is perfect as well, because it feels kind of, I don't know if this is the right word, unyielding. Like I'm not gonna move. It's almost like with the TI and the FE, like the FE is, I can be emotional, I can be hurt emotionally, but that's not me. It's like the human can die, but like the machine is still there. Like I don't feel, it feels more unmovable rather than like combative. So that detachment also gives me power, because it's like you can't really touch that. Like that's not moving. Like everything can go, but that's still there. There's always a mission kind of thing.
And so, and just to circle it back to the compare and contrast, I like from an FI's point of view, I see the value of that actually. Even though you're saying that, I'm like, okay, yeah, like sometimes you need that.
Yeah.
But like for me, it's like there's a visceral frustration. It's not rational, right? Unsurprisingly, right? It's not rational. But I think with FI, and especially with Nietzsche, kind of this is the shared perspective, is like, wouldn't you rather be like a force of nature?
Yeah. This is the thing though. Yeah, exactly. Like I as an idea, and this is the thing, I'm still detached from it, but I love it. Like and like this goes to how we kind of, because we talked about the will to power, will to power, and we were just talking about our different perspectives of that idea, and you were just talking about the involvement of the will to power, in that it's I don't know how to describe it. For anyone that doesn't know, maybe you might be better if you describe it.
The will to power. Okay, long story very short. Will to power. And also just the I think I forgot what Schopenhauer is called, but both of these.
Will to life.
Yeah, both of these big deal philosophy guys. Super boring to 80% of people, super interesting to 20%, right? But basically, one of their central theses is that all of life, like it's almost like life is a force, right? Or will that's manifesting itself in like all of life, right? So it's like, we're a manifestation of will to power. For Nietzsche or Schopenhauer, it's the will to life. I mean, that's about it. I mean,
that's it. Yeah,
there's no consciousness. It's just like everything is reducible to an expression of that force or that will or whatever.
Yeah, and we had a discussion about how we interpreted that differently. Yours was the involvement of that in you. So you kind of looked at it as the will to power is like, how are you competing with the other things? And like other things will have their own will, and you're more focused in your involvement. And I'm looking at it from more of a detached view, like this is happening, like this is like almost like the cycle of life, like everything's fighting, and like I'm taking inspiration from it. It's like everything I do is an expression of it, and it's more of a poetic view rather than like a raw like feeling like that. And almost like my idea of will to power is like, I prefer your way of doing it, but again, that's an idea. Like I'm not actually doing it, like, but I love the idea of being that. And I don't know how to, that's the thing, I don't know if I just had and it's weird though, because I still get the benefit of it. Maybe it's just TIFI, like I can do things with a framework that helps me get more out of situations. That's how I see that will to power. And I think there's a book called The Selfish Gene Theory, Richard Dawkins.
Yeah, pretty good.
And I see that emulating the whole will to power thing, where it's like there's forces within you, your genetics are doing, like, like everyone has sexual drives, but it's to have kids. Like your genetics wants to, what's the populate, but you just experience it as like, I want to have sex, but like you don't know, all that, like, so I see it working at so many levels of reality that like all the dumb shit I go through, I'm like, this is, I can have a more detached view of what I go through, then it gives me more energy with stuff. I don't know if that makes sense, but
I think so. We had a clarifying question from Felix. So he was asking, so like Star Wars, may the Force.
yeah, I you know, like as you were describing the will to power, I literally had Star Wars in my head. But
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
it's not. I wouldn't say it's the same though, but it is. It is kind of
Yeah, it's This anyway. I mean, it's not like, you know, it's philosophy, you guys. Like the shit's abstract. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So don't grill us for the ST of it. The shit it's very NTNF.
Yeah, we're just shooting shit. Like
yeah. Really good. So the TE, I know that was one of the huge ones, huge contrasts.
NE and NI. I don't know. We didn't speak about this before or anything.
About it. So NE is interesting to me because I think people hype it up too much or they over exaggerate it too much, which leads to a very cartoonish view of what it is.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm still pissed about this, by the way. Like, I was in a conversation with a few people and they were like, "Oh, you're the NE guy. Like come up with all the crazy ideas." And I was like,
yeah.
Like, what the fuck? Like, first of all, I got shit to do. Second of all, like, I'm not like that, you know?
Yeah.
NE is always like that. Now, obviously, you know, there are people who do that. There are some people who don't. And I do think occasionally when NE is doing its thing, it will inevitably look like that. But this is my current hot take of what NE is. Okay. Mm-hmm. I think what NE is doing, you have to contextualize NE with SI. Always.
Right. Okay.
Right? So let's actually start with SI. SI is organizing and simplifying, categorizing, what do you want to call these things? Data sets or facts.
Yeah.
Or data sets, right? So perfect example. Okay, when I am on Discord, here are the facts about Discord, and this is how I like organizing Discord. When I'm on YouTube, these are the facts about YouTube, and this is how I like the facts to be organized. Mm-hmm. So on and so forth. So I'm using social media as an example.
Yeah.
And he is gonna do. Oh no, actually, and then also, you can have data sets and things that are outside of that obvious category. So like, let's say, here's how I like to organize going on dates.
Okay.
Or starting a friendship, right?
Okay.
So all of these little data sets of how you want things organized or how you think things are organized in those categories. Yeah, and what all NE is doing is, I'm going to use Lana Wachowski's word, juxtaposing two data sets.
Wow. Yeah.
NE2. That's where it looks kind of crazy.
Yeah.
It could be NE2, right? So it's like, for example, Discord and YouTube, a lot of the data sets align, actually. It's like, okay, you know, we have a chat. There's, you know, they're muted, if you want to call it that. Mm-hmm. You have people talking, so there's a voice option, there's a video option. You know, there are, you know, people, yeah, you know. So that's one example. But, you know, if I had to be, let me give you the perfect example of what quote unquote crazy NE looks like to me.
Yeah.
Let's say we use YouTube, that data set of YouTube, right?
Yeah.
And I can compare it with symbolism, right? Very abstract. The data set of symbolism, right? Masculine, feminine, yin and yang, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So then if I compare those two quote unquote data sets, then yeah, it's like I see similarities. I'm like, okay, it's like you have two people, you have someone talking, you have someone listening. You have like the the objects, and then you have the blank space between the objects. Mm-hmm. You have, you know, even in the OP, you have the masculine and the feminine, right? And then you have the speakers and you have the the viewers, right? So it's it's like my NE can start seeing, oh yeah, no, there are actually a lot of similarities in these data sets. And then what the advantage of that is that it can start crossing over things in the data set to the other. So that does come up with new ideas.
Right. Yeah. There's it's like sex. It's like there's a baby being born, like there's a male, female, and then that baby is that makes sense. Weirdly enough, like, so my NISC is, it's almost like you're doing the data sets and then the NE is then contextualizing it. NI is kind of doing that on the front end, and I don't really know exactly how.
Okay.
Because let me think how this is happening. Yeah, this is really weird because it felt like yeah, NI is also finding common patterns, but it's not trying to find unique ones. So you're specifically finding them between the data sets of, like, let's say YouTube and Discord. But NI is like, it doesn't care so much about the dates. It wants commonalities between. So, like, let's say NI, my NI does that too, but it's trying to focus on the patterns that will also relate possibly to other data sets.
Exactly.
It's weird. It's like, so it's trying to cover every data set in existence.
Yeah.
So it's like there's a lot of patterns that are being thrown out because it's like those are just unique to that situation.
Right.
So it's less nuance in the patterns, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's really good. I mean, yeah. So, yeah, I see that now. Practically, behaviorally, the difference between NE and NI, or at least between us, let's stick to between us, is I think, I mean, you do tend to like talking about the same things. I mean, that.
Yeah, I think also our feminine N, and I've had this with Prem. It's like it kind of complements each other. I think there's more of an exploratory nature with feminine N. So I enjoy the exploration of NE, and then I think feminine NE doesn't like. Yeah, there's a weird like synergy with that, and I don't know what it is, but it seems to work well.
Yeah, I've not gotten the same amount of frustration with like you or anyone with feminine NI as with masculine NI. I think actually Felix pointed out to me is like, it's like the masculine version of NI is where I think the more traditional contrast between NE and NI comes in for me. Because then like locked in on one thing, and I'm like, whoa, no, what about this?
Yeah. No, for sure. Like I can change my mind with stuff. Like even like when we had the pre-call and I had some dumb ideas and like you pointed them out, and I was like, I can see that it hurts because the TI hurts, but my feminine and it wants to change. It almost like it feels like the door is always open. It's like a semi-permeable boundary rather than like a solid, like this is where we're going. It's like the lane is it wants to change because I'm just almost assuming I don't have everything, So with masculine NI, it is more solid, and with masculine NE for me, that shit hurts, man. Like, so masculine NE will I don't know how to describe it. I guess it feels like it doesn't want to explore. It kind of already knows what it knows. So like I'll be kind of doing my feminine NI of like kind of exploring and seeing where I'm wrong and seeing where I'm right. And the masculine NE that I'm engaging with seems to kind of, it already knows, it already has its set of categories, and so it's not really exploring. So it's like almost a different conversation where I'm trying to see something different. They're just trying to like establish something. So it's like a weird, it's different.
That's interesting. I don't know. I haven't experienced that because I don't think I know many people. I don't think I know anyone with masculine NE. I don't think I've spoken to them yet. So
have you spoken to Assis?
I mean, in part, like passing, like times. Actually, no, I lied. I have spoken to him a few times on the Discord, and I was ripping his shit apart. Like at least subjectively, I thought.
Yeah.
Maybe I was. Maybe I wasn't, but I subjectively thought I'm like, bro.
Yeah, he's probably gonna, if he's watching, he's probably gonna comment like, "Let's go, man! Like, get me on here."
Yo, sure.
But yeah, he's the I'd say he's the person I've had most communication with that has masculine NE, and I've spoken to a few more. There's an ENFP I've spoken to. She has masculine NE too. Yeah, I've spoken to others, but yeah, he's been the most contact time I've had, interaction time.
Interesting. Yeah. So I might talk to him about that but like if I remember correctly, the biggest frustration I had with talking with him at times is he would go off and like start having an explanation. And for me, I'm listening and I'm trying to follow along because like I'm open to it. But at some point, I'm like, where are the examples? Even for me,
right.
I'm like, what are we talking about?
Yeah, right, yeah. And I think, and I've explained this to other people and you probably relate, like with what you're just saying now, like with masculine sensory, like I need to have breadcrumbs towards the thing, like the bread. If I don't have the facts, because I don't have masculine sensory, but I still kind of forget the facts. Is very frustrating because then I'm like, now I can't explain the pattern because I have no breadcrumbs to like. And so the breadcrumbs to me are so important. And like, so with the masculine N, I see the missing breadcrumbs. But it's like clearly, it's like I have a respect because like clearly they have something that's a bit further out than I could get. But then also there's a struggle with them leading people towards that. Whereas for me, I can lead people in, but I'm not saying something too too as solid. I'd say. I don't know.
Really good. Really good. I'm trying to think, is there, I mean, of course, if we wanted to get super technical, we can get into all the, like, I don't want to do that. I'm just trying to think, are there any other major contrasts between us that you thought were noticeable or?
Your FI versus my FE for sure.
Oh, okay.
Like, yeah. In terms of like, it's very interesting. It's almost refreshing. Your FI is almost refreshing to me, and I don't know if it's because, say, we're in our stack, like I have FE second in the stack, and that probably plays a role, and you have FI second in your like in the MBTI model.
Yeah.
And like David said, that seems to play a role. So I don't know if it's that. And for some reason, when you're like, if it's activated, there's something refreshing about like I don't take your FI too seriously. And I noticed some people do. I've never really taken it too like I'm just seeing you express yourself. It's refreshing. It's also like, oh, I couldn't do that because I don't have FI, but I don't have a problem with it either. It's like I can notice a clear difference. And I couldn't do that, but then it's like, okay, this is cool. Yeah. And my FE is more like FE for me is like I almost don't know how I feel exactly.
Yeah.
I know you spoke to Kevin about this, alexithymia.
Yes.
And it makes sense. It's more of a FE-TI axis thing because like for me, it's almost like I know more how I feel when someone is expressing something. So like there's plenty of times when I feel some kind of, and it's like I kind of get a sense, but it doesn't feel real. And then I listen to someone, either it's like a song echoing how I feel or like someone ranting, and then I feel it. Then it's clear. It's like I can see the feeling. A lot of times it's like when someone's feeling some way towards me, if it's negative, I'll see myself through their eyes. It's like my imagination of what they feel, right? And then I'll feel very sensitive to judgment or things like that. So that's how I experience FE, I think. Maybe that's also because it's a demon, but
really good.
Yeah.
So what I want to actually do, because you actually reminded me of the conversation we had before, because again, public service announcement, y'all can catch these hands and smash. But we were actually talking about what gets us like, and this actually would be a good example, not only of the difference between our FI and FE, but like our SFs.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
Right. So, we were talking about what gets us in video games and what makes us leave.
Mm-hmm.
And what I was telling him was, actually, for someone who's an ENFP or whatever, I'm a very late adopter to a lot of stuff. Right. I don't want to jump into something popular unless I know it's been popular for like 2+ years, right? That's why I went out and bought Smash finally, because I'm like, all right, you know what, fuck, like this should have been out. Niggas are still catching hands, like it's just hype. So I'm like, all right, you know what, let me just do it. Just I can't even express. But anyway, so that's me with a lot of things.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas with you, Manny, what you were talking about is how
it's almost like I feed off, and my adaptation of things has to come early because I feed off the excitement from other people as well. So like if there's a game I like and it's been out for a year, even if I like it, I'll be discouraged to play because I'm like, oh, not many people will be on the servers or whatever, and so like it's kind of dead, like the hype's gone, like I'm not that into it. And that's another thing. I only really play online or multi. I don't play any single player games. I only like do competition. Like I feed off kind of competing with other people and like the excitement of like, okay, like it's almost like if I'm the best at this game, because there's also attention on this game, it's like the respect that people have for me. It's like all this kind of, it's like you can see it in my play where it's like there's I need also the hype there, because if I do compete with people and I do beat them, a lot of eyes are there to like kind of respect me. Like it's in my imagination. It's like, oh, there's a lot of energy that's going towards me if I play this game. But if I'm just playing a single player game, it's boring. Like I find it boring in the sense of like it's almost I'm just going through a process, and I don't get anything from that, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and then basically.
What's interesting about that to me is that like I feel like our SFs feed off each other then, because I was telling you this with the Smash Brothers.
You bring it back.
If I get hype about something, then if based on what you're saying, I'm gonna be the one bringing it back, because I'm telling you right now, I'm gonna like as soon as we're done with this, I'm gonna be blowing everybody up in the OP community saying, "Yo, do you want to catch these hands officially?"
And I said, and that this literally happened because then I said to you, dude, I haven't played this in a while, but you're bringing me back into it. Like when I get back home, we'll play again, and then I think then we started talking more about it. But that literally happened. Like now I'm more excited because I'm like, oh shit, like it's coming back. Yeah.
And so what that tells me is that not masculine FI specifically, but like masculine feeling pushes feminine feeling.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and this is the thing, like your excitement for Smash, like that I just fed off. I was like, wow, this is cool. I don't know. It was nice. Yeah, it's literally that, I think. For sure. Yeah. And I don't know if this is the case for Savior feminine feeling, but for me, definitely. Like there's something very refreshing. It's almost like, oh shit, like it feels like the masculine feeling is turning the lights on. And I'm like, oh, I can see stuff now, right? And then without that, it's like I'm feeling my way around my feelings.
Interesting. So that analogy is interesting. So do you not see the value? So going back to you a little bit, do you not see the value in something unless there's hype around it?
So with FE, how I've understood it is like I can, but it's like it's differentiated. So it's almost like it's like a load up bar. It's like I can take it up to 40% with just me, but I need that extra 60 to like want to do it,
I don't do that.
Yeah.
Now the hype helps. Like, so for example, going back, I think the Smash is a perfect example for me, because I was feeding off of like once the Sapphire trailer dropped, I'm trying to tell y'all, like, guys, I do not play video games. Like, and that thing dropped, and then not only did that drop, there from an FE or a DE standpoint, there were a lot of reactions on YouTube. Everyone was buzzing about it. So I was like, that is what drew my attention initially. I was like, hey, let me take a look at what people are talking about.
Yeah.
And so, but then as I watched the videos, I was finding things for myself. That was, if you're using that load up bar, it was loading up the bar for me. I'm like, oh wait, I like that. Oh, and I like that.
Yeah.
Oh, and I like that. And then at some point, I was like, I got to buy this. It doesn't matter. Like, I don't care. It's over. Like, I'm buying it and I'm playing it. Like,
yeah. Interesting. Yeah. That's really cool though. And there's almost like I wish I had that, because there's so many times where I'm like, I like this, but for some reason, I don't want. And sometimes I've bought games trying to like almost force because there was a point in my life where I was a bit of like a workaholic, in a sense, like I never did things for fun. And I was like, oh shit, this is gonna be a problem when I'm older. I need to like have fun hobbies or whatever. And like I forced myself to get like a console because I used to play more. then I would buy games thinking like I kind of like this game, but then I just wouldn't play it. I'd be like, I'm just not. I like this, but there's not enough.
Yeah.
And I was mentioning Eminem as well, as he's like my double masculine type twin.
Yeah.
And he's known for like, he's mainly known for being like a competitive rapper. Like no one, you don't want to beef him because that's what he does. Like he is the beef guy. Like that's what makes him really stand out. Like no one can touch him, and that's almost where he shines the most. And for me, it's always been like that, where it's like I need that. It just feels like I'm looking for that kind of friction. I don't know. It's weird. Yeah.
Interesting. Really good.
Yeah.
Really good. One last thing before we switch over to the final topic here.
Sure.
Ian, you're gonna have to help me out here. I think I get this contrast that you're pointing out here. You're saying, okay, if Effie gets Spectrum, then Reggie's FI is to be expected and respected. I don't know about the second half of what that means, but
yeah,
respect. So that's a good question. Okay, so I'm gonna ask a question. I don't know if this is related to this, but you know, I don't know. I do feel like my desire for respect does come from an emotional. It's not a rational place. I want you to just like, it's just more pure almost. It's like, yo, don't come at me. Like that's it. That's not it. It's not about my like, because I know I'm like I say stupid stuff a lot of the times.
Yeah.
But just maybe more as a human. I don't know, like as a human or just me as a person. I want you to respect me as a person.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then yeah, my FI will get triggered. I'm wondering for you, is it like what?
It's the same. Yeah. So do you watch anime?
Yeah.
Have you seen Kuroko no Basket?
Boy.
Yeah, obviously. So
guys, that's a hype anime, guys. Guys, on YouTube, look up Kuroko no Basket in the Zone.
Yeah, dude.
You're gonna thank me later. You're gonna thank me later. I promise.
I was gonna talk about that because the main character Kagami, he's a pretty wild guy in general. Mm-hmm. But there was a particular part where I think he entered this. It was him versus Aomine. He entered the zone for the first time, and Aomine was like, there was this like scene where he had his circle, like this like circle around him, and Aomine was like, Aomine had to like back up because he was like, shit, like he's like a wild animal right now.
Right.
And that to me is like I imagine that's like what FI is like. This is my circle. Like it's like almost like a wild animal in that sense. Like it's instinctive. It's like, these are my boundaries. Like don't like this is And TI is not so much like that. It's more I can my SE will be that way, but it's not how do I describe this? Yours is coming more from your FI, and I can relate to what you're talking about, but it's more like my masculine SE.
Okay.
And it's like sometimes like someone will be in my physical space, like, and I'll have this urge. It's almost like to hit them. Like it's like I'm not like sometimes my friend will like mess with me and he's like touching me, and I'm just like, there's an urge like to just push back, you know. But it's not emotional. It's like I almost feel it in my body, but it's not an emotional thing. So I can see it. I'm like, oh, that's weird. I don't know why I feel like this way, but he needs to get off me. You know what I mean? So it's more of the SE, and it's very there's not as much emotion.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Well, I guess I won't fight you then. All right. Bet.
Yeah, I don't fight people though. I don't think there's been one time when I nearly did, but I'm glad that didn't happen. But yeah, I don't fight either. Like, despite having the SC masculine SC, but
yeah, I haven't gotten into fights, you know, like I don't think ever. I mean, except for like middle school.
Yeah.
Petty stuff, like I'm trying to tell you. So
it feels like because of the end, like my NT is like, oh, this is gonna be a waste of time. Like I can see the outcome. Like no one wins. Like
interesting.
To me, anyways. Like the ESSA, like I guess it's like if you beat someone, that should be a win because you're like, I won the fight. But I'm not. I guess it's like the demon SF where I'm like, I'm not really valuing it feels like a waste of time. I'm like, this isn't
very different. I think for me, I think maybe it's because mine is double masculine. I immediately get the value of beating someone's ass.
interesting. Yeah.
Why I bought Smash Brothers Ultimate. I'm like, look, someone needs to catch hands immediately. You need to know. Okay?
Yeah.
Virtual or not, it has to happen. So, and for me, I want, so my demon desire or whatever you want to call it is like, I want to be this imposing presence at times.
Right. Interesting.
I just don't put in any hours into it.
Yeah.
Wow. It's really that for me. It's not a matter of I don't get it. I get it.
Yeah.
Like Jocko Willink, like you want to be a Jocko Willink. Like if you're dating someone and you're not the Jocko Willink and a Jocko Willink pulls up on you, you have some problems in your hands.
Yeah, I know. I get you. Yeah. No, I get that. Oh man, interesting. Let me think about this. Yeah, I see that. For some reason in those situations, I'm like, it's like I know I may not be this person, but like it's I know I'm good. Like I know, like
How?
it's almost like there's a part of me he can't tell. Like I don't know what it is. I don't know why.
Oh, girl, this is very instinctive.
And but this is the thing. This is a good point. I think I think this is also something I've learned more so than this is natural. Like I learned stuff about what being in the right state. So the only thing I ever focus on really is being in a resourceful state. Like Tony Robbins talks about like your state. So I want to be in the state that I can bring my best self out. So for whatever reason, it's like I'm almost trusting that. It's like I don't know what it is. Like I'm almost like I don't want to compete with this guy on his level. Like there's a particular thing I don't know. I don't know if I'm explaining this well. Maybe
I'm following. I just like, and I do think this is an important contrast. I'm immediately like, bro, you say that.
Yeah, I know it's true. It's a good point. Yeah.
Until you're in a situation where the SF is rocking your shit. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's true. No, you're right. And I have thought about this actually. It's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're gonna have to process that later. I'm sorry. I don't see how.
No, I see your point. I do actually see your point.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much I think about it, like it's gonna happen. Like and the situation's gonna be what it is.
Yeah, and it's gonna and the worst part about it is since it involves feeling, it's gonna hurt your feelings, bro.
Yeah.
When someone pulls up on you and they're flexing on you, and heaven forbid you're out SF'd more specifically, you're out SF'd in a domain that matters to you.
Yeah.
You're going home with some hurt feelings.
Yeah, okay. All right. So I have had I was just thinking about it now. I have had experiences with a particular girl where that was it. Like I got like my early experiences were it's weird. So what you're talking about happened.
Okay.
And then I learned about the whole state thing and whatever. And then it never happened again with the same girl. Like I don't know. I don't want to go into too much details. Yeah. But there was a U-turn, and I was like, "Damn, this shit works!" Like, and I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, I'm also trying not to go into too much details. Yeah, but yeah, there was a U-turn, and I was like, "This shit still works." Like, I don't know, but
yeah, pretty good, awesome. All right, so I don't know why I'm so hyped today. I think it is really just the Smash Ultimate, honestly.
Or it could be me.
Or it could be you. Okay. So with that being said, let's transition to the final important topic, because I know this is something that's kind of very close to you. Something like you've thought about this a lot. So talk to me a bit about. I mean, I don't know how you want me to introduce this. Like, I know you said generally it's like, what is personality, or who are we beyond our functions?
Yeah.
Okay, can you like just flesh out?
Go into it. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so this is more just my point of view. So I don't know if this is true or anything, but it might be beneficial to some people. But I guess so we kind of know about our functions and our type and the way it plays a role in our lives. And I tend to see the function sort of like as our go-to tools or our go-to strategy. Like, I'm gonna, if there's a problem, I'm gonna go to my saviors, whatever. But I don't necessarily believe we're addicted from birth, or like, we're born addicted. That's where my where I differ a little bit. And it comes to like understanding what is really important. And like David spoke about this, where he says, like, at the end of the day, we're all deciders. Like, that's what's underlying all this chaotic shit we do with like our saviors and demons. At the end of the day, it's almost like our role, our place in the world, and then how we can connect with the world or whatever. Like, that's it. And like and I've seen this also in some of their classes. Like, they had a class with Marcus Brownlee, and they were like, we don't see any spikes. Like, this guy's good. Like, but he's not necessarily like an alpha. Like, he did his demons. He just seems good. And they were like, good parenting, right? And this kind of ties into like basically every like psychological model, and even like the more yoga philosophy, like spiritual world, where we develop we develop things from experience rather than like we're born a certain way. So like in yoga philosophy, it's called samskars. So you develop a sort of a trauma from like your experiences in life. In psychology, maybe some of you heard, like in cognitive behavioral therapy, you learn about core beliefs. So it's like the driving beliefs, and you can have negative ones, and you have to like get over that. And also just traumas in general. And and what we understand from that is that comes from experience. Like, you're not born with that. So that's kind of where the functions come in, I think, because when you develop these balls of trauma or core beliefs or some scars, I think that's when you lean into your functions. So it's still, I think, beneficial to work on your demons from a functional perspective. Like, if you're not doing the SI, you're gonna forget to pay your taxes. Like, that's a problem, right? Like, there's actual practical issues in your life. You need to learn to do your demons, because you've associated something negative with it. So you still need to do that. But then I think underneath that, like, there's also a very direct path to kind of finding that place of like integration, right? And you can do that directly. And I think yoga, like the yoga philosophy, like, it explains really well. And I'm going to talk about like a study that was done with meditation. And there was end of life patients. So in end of life, maybe they have cancer. It's generally they have a condition that's forcing they're gonna die from this condition. So usually they're suffering chronic pain, and they're continuously being given like pain medication, right? So there's a study conducted where they got like a big group of end of life patients to rate their pain on a scale of 1 to 10, and then they would rate it around like 7, 8, generally like 7, 8 was it. Taught them meditation for 6 weeks, got them to rate their pain again, and they actually rated their pain higher. It was a higher pain on the scale, but what they reported was they weren't suffering. Like, they had a reduced experience of that pain, so much so that physiologically they needed less pain medication. So to describe what I mean, like, your body, based on the pain you're feeling, the opioids, the opioids within your system, it's like fitting the need. But if your body's like, I don't need this, then you're overdosed, right? So they had to reduce it because they were getting overdosed at that point. So it was almost like physiologically. And in yoga philosophy, how this is described is like, we have the spectrum of experience. You can feel joy, sadness, grief, like all these experiences, emotions, whatever. But underneath that, there's like just two core things. There's either pain or suffering. And you can feel any experience, but it has nothing to do with whether you're in pain or in suffering. So you can feel peace and have all these painful experiences. And that's kind of like what the what's being echoed in that study is. Even like, you can feel the pain. Like, they were more aware. Like, that's what kind of the awareness aspect of meditation. You're more aware of the pain, but you're not suffering. So like, there's a distinction there where this is where the blast falls off. Um, there's a distinction of the kind of experiential pain you're feeling, which is where your ego comes in. Your ego is activating to protect you, and this is more because there's a distinction between clinical ego and like the yogi ego. Clinical ego is more like uh functional, so it's more like my sense of self in general. So just to explain, the clinical ego is like OCD is, if I get this right, is ego dystonic. So if you're an OCD and you're doing compulsions, like, I'm checking the door 20 times, there's a part of you that knows like this is off. Like, I don't want to do this, but I'm compelled to do it. So it's not aligned with yourself. But then OCPD is obsessed. I think it's the personality disorder of, obsessive compulsive personality. It's where it is aligned with your ego, where it's like the neat freak person that like over organizes stuff, but they think this is right. They're like, that's aligned with their self. So that's more of the clinical ego. But the yoga ego is more like it's more of an active thing. So it's interpreting your experiences, and it's protecting you. It's distinguishing between what's painful and what's not painful. It's doing that whole thing. And the ego is what makes you do your saviors and avoid your demons and all that. But yoga is like, yo, you can like just not get rid of it. Like, there's always a role to play, but you can just get through your ego and just kind of dissolve it. And then when you get through it, you're in a state of, it's like non-duality. Like, you accept, I think there's a word, equanimity, where you accept all sides of reality. There is no like pain, there's no good or evil. It's like a spectrum. It's like hot and cold are just different forms of temperature. It's like it's all the same, and and it's not like you're numb to stuff. And I think there's a lot of spiritual people who use spirituality for apathy. So that's like bad. And like, there's an ENFP guy called Owen Cook. He talks about it. He's like, there's a lot of people that use spirituality to be like apathetic, numb to, like, they're not like pushing on themselves. So it's like, it's more of a comfort. But the truer version of it is you're more engrossed in reality. And you can see that in the study I mentioned, where they rated the pain higher, like they were more aware of it. So and there's like a saying, it's like the least attached, but the most engaged. So it's like a weird dynamic in that sense. And where's I going with this? So you can you can enter the space of non-duality, where it's not about, let me avoid my demons at that point, because you're not trying to run away from something. You're just here, and you can do your functions, and like, I don't know, like, and that's the whole thing. I think, when Dave and Shannon say, oh, good parenting with Marcus Brownlee, I interpret that like he didn't have any trauma. He didn't develop a trauma or some scar that he was like a pain that he was running away from. He kind of had that. He had a life where he didn't have so much to run away from, so he could just do his functions as tools. It's like, I'm picking up a knife, I'm using it as it's supposed to be used. So I don't know, and I think the path, that kind of spirituality path, kind of it. So yeah, so it's just a different perspective where we can kind of just directly break through our ego, and just then we can kind of just do our demons. And the part of this is also like, this is like my savior is like, oh, just kind of sleep and tea it, just go into your inner world and put everything apart. But I do think you can see it in the world, like this, like regardless of whether this is my saviors, like, I also think I'm looking at reality. I'm seeing what people did thousands of years ago. I'm seeing what's like the current psychological models that also we use in therapy and in everything that works. It's like the same. It has results consistently throughout. If that makes sense. So that's pretty much it. I think
Really
probably
good.
have something out.
So I think how I'm understanding that as you were talking is, I'm connecting that with this whole notion of so there's two elements to your demons then, right? There's just the functional, just you're just not putting the time in, or you're not using it properly.
Yeah, yeah,
But there's also the resistance to doing it at all.
yeah.
Suffering component.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah,
And I think there's also a proverb that's related to that. So pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. So yeah,
yeah,
kind of going back to that. Yeah. So the peace would be you're at peace. You're not resisting the fact that you need to do it.
yeah,
And I do think, I mean, for me personally, it's like I definitely catch myself. It's not like I do it intentionally necessarily, but it's like I will catch myself avoiding SI or FI. Like, and I'll be mad. Like, I had a conversation with someone yesterday where it's like, I was like talking about emotions and they were really confusing. And I honestly thought they were really awkward. And I was like, why am I talking to this person about it?
yeah,
And I'm mad at myself for even doing that.
yeah.
So,
Interesting. Yeah.
so I think that's where the suffering that you're talking about, that's like a good example of I was creating this resistance to even doing it.
Yeah.
And maybe also just functionally, maybe that wasn't the right place to do it. Sure.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
There's also that resistance of I'm so bad for, even doing emotions at all. So I definitely,
Yeah. And I do think, Dave and Chan, I think they're aware of this as well. But I guess my nuance is just like you don't even it's not like, to me it's not even, you don't have to, you can just like, it goes to the start where you're talking about being happy or being alpha, and you can just, there is like a direct lane where you can have your cake now, like you can literally,
right.
I don't know, it's weird, like there's just,
Do this resistance. So, and this is my biggest frustration with the whole Dave and Chan thing. Like, unless there's missing information, of course. Unless there's missing information I don't know about, they do seem their schema, to go back to that term. Their schema is the only way for you to grow is you need to intentionally go through this resistance process.
yeah, exactly, yeah. So I'm like,
it's like they're like amplifying the suffering almost, and they've even talked about like, oh, the best way to help your friends is to amplify their suffering.
yeah.
But I don't know if that's true, and especially
I don't know either. Yeah.
It's like maybe the answer is to actually, stop that resistance and then just get to a place where you can just do the functions as needed, and you'll still be bad at it. So there's still an element of
Exactly.
a learning curve, but there's no longer this resistance to whatever the demon is. So
the process doesn't have to be that process. Yeah, exactly. So and I don't know if I'm right. Like this isn't something, this is more like I want to see if this, I'm just exploring this. I want to see where I could be the example of, maybe this is a bad strategy and I'm happy to be an example that it's bad. But I want to explore it. Like I want to see this.
I do think I do believe that there is a tension. Like, man, this is reminding me of some real shit. This is like a deep tension I've had for a long time as well. In different language. I was not using suffering or anything like that. So one of the biggest like worldviews that have been clashing in my FI is the like, I'm gonna reduce it to like the almost Christian approach to the hero's journey.
Yeah.
And like the Nietzschean, or the, let's say, the classical approach to the hero's journey.
Yeah.
They're different, because with Christianity, if you think about it, it's like, or just like that approach to life. It doesn't necessarily have to be Christian, but that's the frame I have, is you are going through like this crucifixion, right? You have to torture yourself and everyone's going to abandon you and all this, like it's suffering way.
Yeah.
Whereas with the Greeks, like the Iliad, or with Nietzsche's like Übermensch and all this stuff, it's like, it's an overflow. He talks like, it's or it's abundance, or
Superman,
at the very least, it's not suffering. It's like, look, I'm just doing this, and if I need to overcome myself and do my demons, sure. But there's not this narrative of suffering. It's this narrative of overcoming, of triumph, of all these things.
Yeah,
like,
and it's interesting.
A good example of that practically for me is like Kobe Bryant. He's not talking about how, everything's so hard and it's torture. It's like, dude, I'm gonna be the best in the world.
Yeah.
If I gotta do NI to do that, bet. If I gotta do TE to do that, bet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure, 100%. That's and it's seeing that, and like he let me think. And this is the thing, like I love the guy, right? And just listening to him, he seems to embody the same spirit of like, I remember he talks about one of his first games for the Lakers, and he shot like a lot of air balls, and it was very embarrassing, and people just were like, wow, this kid kind of sucks. And he was just talking about the process of like, he was, after that game, like the next day, the whole day, he just like shot. He locked himself in a gym. He just shot the whole day, and it was like that's career ending experience. Like that's extreme embarrassment. And then he said for him, at the end of it, it was just like, okay, just get over yourself. Like
Right.
it's not about you. Just forget about you. And then it's almost, and he talks about that detachment a lot. He talks about, and I think Phil Jackson, his coach, Phil Jackson is known to bring Eastern philosophy to the basketball teams. He taught the Bulls how to detach themselves and then to stay in the moment. And then I think he probably learned it from Phil Jackson too.
He did. He
talks about it all the time. Yeah.
He talks about it in an interview where he says Phil Jackson introduced him to like meditation and mindfulness, and that's when he started. He calls it the spirituality of the game. He's like seeing, there's a different level of depth to how it is.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, man. And I was gonna say something, I forgot, but it was it's already gone though. Yeah, but this is, I'm trying to find it because it was actually a really good tangent, but what was it? Nah, it's gone, man. But yeah, I think it's really bothering me. This is what sleep is like. I have to find it because I know it was good, but so it was about, I think I was thinking about the division in the community
between suffering and like that. I don't know if I would call it happiness, but like suffering and not suffering approach to the hero's journey. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it was to do with that. And I think I was thinking about how I don't know, but I can side tangent though. Like we can talk about something else. I think, and you also see this in different other philosophies of life, like Stoicism. Like it's like kind of the same approach, but it's like repackaged differently. And I do, I don't know where I'm going with this, but yeah, it's just that this.
I think it's good. I think what this is telling me is like, because I've had this conversation with many people, even on this show. This recurring tension or schema, like this tension of schema between, is self-growth about suffering and resisting and doing your demons for 20 minutes, all that shit, or is self-growth along more of what you're talking about, where it's like you're not resisting, or the Kobe Bryant approach of you're just accepting. He was like what, 20? He was in his 20s when he was doing that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like so it kind of goes counter to everything that Dave and Shannon are talking about, where it's like, oh, you can only do it at 40 and all. Like he was like I think he was.
Yeah, I remember what it was. So I was gonna.
So let me finish the thought. Like like I remember like Kobe was 16 when he decided I'm gonna be the best in the world, and his NI locked on there.
Yeah. So I was gonna talk about. I might come back to that point you just said, but I was going to talk about, have you heard of a book called Levels of Energy? And there's also a book called Power vs. Force.
Okay.
But anyways, those books talk about like this is where I think Dave and Shannon do what they're saying still has value. Everything always has value, right? And there's the idea that we have different, this is going to get very NF, but there's different kind of like vibrations of reality, and then you can conceptualize them as almost emotional realms. So like on the lowest level, it's like apathy or whatever, and the highest level is love. And love isn't like, it's not love in the sense of like
romance,
how you feel. Yeah, it's not love like emotional, but it's more love in unity.
Okay.
So it's like, and it's a whole idea of like, when you're at that love level, you're super connected with everything. When you're at apathy, you're the most disconnected, and that's where the ego comes in, because the ego is literally separating you from everything. It's like, I'm here and everything else is there. But love is like, oh no, like we're all the same, and it's seeing equanimity, like there's no good and evil, whatever. Anyways, and within that, there's different levels, and you can occupy different levels. There's like maybe a lower level is like there's like grief, then there's like pride, then it goes to courage, then it goes to, so it's like different levels. And for what I understood from that model is like, if you're at a certain level, let's say grief, like level 2 or whatever, you can't jump to love. You need to go to level 3. You have to work through it.
Okay.
And the idea is, depending on where you're at, you need to hear a specific thing. So after grief is like anger or something. So when someone's at grief, they need information that moves them to anger. It's like objectively, it's like, oh, this is toxic, but like they'll need that to move up.
I
So
see.
it's almost like, I don't know if maybe like, and David spoke about this, I think, where he's trying to help the kid that's really in the gutter, right? So like,
Right.
Within that model, I'm like, it makes sense. Like there's a group of people that need that. Like
it's useful for a certain stage, and
Yeah.
I agree with that because I needed it, and I probably still need it when I'm in certain emotional states. But I guess maybe the distinction is I don't think they're clear that that's what's happening.
Yeah.
They make it like, at least for me and definitely the community, it's like it seems as though they think like there's the assumption that this is it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's where I differ. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like maybe you need to suffer up until a certain stage.
Yeah.
But then maybe once you're out of that stage, maybe you need to go to the Kobe Bryant stage of, okay, no, we're just go win championships.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like, and he's a really good example of it because it's so he's showing the results in a very SF way. Like it's not so much like he's just a guru, an F guru, right? And he's actually, and it's not like the NF gurus that might be not, just detached and like what I was saying, like fake spirituality where like they're just staying in apathy. Like he really shows the results of it. He talks about the pain, just the struggles he's had, but then it's within the realm of this sense of like detachment. I don't know. Yeah.
No, really good. So I'm getting tired, so I think we should start wrapping up. But this has been really good, really fun. I mean, before we wrap up, is there any final thoughts, closing thoughts, anything else you wanted to cover, or anything?
No, nothing else. I think we covered everything, man.
Really good. So let me go through the chat real quick just to see if I missed anything. Otim says hi.
Hey, Leon.
Shout out to Goose, Kevin. Goose was talking shit about you in the chat as well, so you might want to look at that.
I saw that.
Who is it? Samuel. I actually am curious. I don't think I've seen any of his interviews, but he seems like an interesting guy.
Yeah, you should watch his interview with Benjamin's interview. I got so much value from that because I learned so much about how similar the same quadrant is. Like a lot of things he was talking about, I was like, wow. Like in my head, I was like, oh, I would be so opposite to an SEFE. But then I learned how, like, okay, we're actually using the same functions. So our experience of reality is actually very similar. And
so do you feel like we're more opposites then?
Sorry?
Do you feel like we're more opposites? Like pure opposites?
Yeah, I would say so. And it's weird though, because in some sense we're not, but then we are. I don't know. It's weird. Because the NT is still there, but
right.
Yeah.
Got you. Okay, no problem. So he says hi, and he's also gonna catch these hands later. He is. And then we also have Jono.
Hey, Jono.
I don't know how to say his name, but all right, really good. So closing up here, Manny, really appreciate it. For everyone who I know, especially for those of you who have short attention spans and skip to the end, I know you guys. Okay, I'm not judging you, but if you came in here and you have no idea what we were just talking about, especially when it comes to the terminology, I put some links in the description. Okay, they're there to help you. Okay, we have the beginner series with Dave and Shan to explain some of these terms in depth. There's also a YouTube playlist so that like 5 minute, like I'm telling you, 5 minutes just to get a term or two, just so you can follow this stuff. Feel free to give me some feedback or give Manny some feedback. I honestly don't give a shit about unlikes. I think it's valuable feedback. So, if you liked it or didn't like it, just do it with a thumbs up or the thumbs down, just so I can see what's going on. If there's a lot of thumbs down, then of course, Feel free to leave a comment if you have any further questions or want to show some support. We'll definitely kind of check in on that. I read all my comments. Finally, there are two other things. One, there are some guests coming up next week. I actually have 3 slated for next week, so that's my limit, but 3 are coming up next week tentatively. Of course, we'll kind of finalize that, but you're gonna like some of these, or I think you'll like all of them, honestly. So just stay tuned for that. And then finally, if you want to catch these hands and Smash, okay, I just bought a Switch, so Smash Ultimate. It's Christmas break. I know you guys have nothing better to do than to catch these hands. Manny's gonna catch these hands. Samuel
on it too.
Hands. Everyone else is about to catch these hands. So please join us. I might announce like an event or something. There's a way we can host.
Yo, yeah, man, that'd be sick.
There might be an OP event, where we get on the Discord and everyone has to just say how you guys got in second place for Reggie. Okay, it's okay. Grab a pillow because you're about to be put to sleep. All right. So that's what's gonna happen. Just stay tuned for that. And then I'll just keep you guys posted when that stuff starts happening. Okay. But other than that, Manny, again, really appreciate it. And to everyone else, I will catch you on the next one. Take care, guys.